Simplemente omnes, if you would like to, and in fact, I would encourage you to please sit near people because you're going to have many opportunities for a little bit of chit chat. And it'll make the half hour go much faster, believe you me. So, oh, is it working? Okay. Oh, wow, that's so loud. Cool. All right, so welcome to Issues of Social Justice in the AP Latin curriculum. Just for a show of hands, who here teaches AP Latin or has taught AP Latin? Oh, okay, fabulous, wonderful. So you'll be our experts in the room. But I'm sure, who here has actually read Caesar's De Bello Gallico? And who here has read Virgil's Aeneid? So, yeah, you do. It's so wonderful. So you're going to have a lot of things to talk about, I think. So I'm Maureen. I'm the language department chair and academic technology coordinator at school. I'm also a program certified trainer, so if you need technology stuff, let me know. And I work at Kingswood, Oxford in West Hartford, Connecticut. And so feel free to reach out. There's my email, there's my Twitter. If you want any of these materials, I am going to share them on Twitter and I'll happily send lots of stuff along. So what exactly is social justice? It's interesting. Even though I know what it is, I didn't know what a great definition was, so I actually looked at Wikipedia so that I could just say what it is. So we all have a similar kind of vocabulary for speaking about social justice. So social justice is a concept of fair and just relations between the individual and society, as measured by the distribution of wealth, opportunities for personal activity, and social privileges. And I thought, yeah, Wikipedia pretty much got this right, so that's wonderful. So now we have a common set of language to talk about. So why are we going to talk about social justice in Latin, a dead language, not that zombie language as we all know, but why? And that's really interesting. So the idea of accessibility to our students. I find that sometimes when we talk about issues, and I don't know if anyone else finds this, when I talk about issues of social justice today, and I just kind of come out with it, it can be inflammatory for students. They cannot be open to accessing it. They can be a little bit, sometimes even defensive about it. And it's interesting. But I find that if I put it in a historical perspective, and then have students, instead of just talking about it now, compare it to their own lives, then they seem to internalize that and they seem to come up with, okay, I understand now how this works. Whereas I think sometimes when they're learning about it, just kind of, here today, this is what is happening, it's difficult for them to think about it clearly. I don't know why, but this idea of learning social justice through historical stuff is really helpful for my students and brings up a lot of good conversations. And so I think that this is creating an intercultural competency for students because they can compare their own experience to the experience of Andrew was reading this text, Andrew was writing this text, who is the audience, who is it here for, and why are they portraying things the way they are portraying things. And with a caveat, a lot of these discussions happen in English. A couple of people ask me, so doesn't that kind of take away from the curriculum if you have to stop and talk about something in English? And I would argue, no, it's so important. We don't learn language in a vacuum. We just don't. We can't just be like, okay, today kids, we're going to decline the first declension all day, every day. No. We have to make it in a cultural context. It has to be relevant. It has to be meaningful for students. And as I like to say, language, and when I'm teaching Latin and Greek, language is really creating empathy for our students. It's helping them to be communicative in a way where they're trying to understand another culture. So that's my background. So what is bias? Does anyone have a good definition of what they think bias is? Yes.
Something like it's a set of unconscious beliefs that affect you with or without your knowledge.
Excellent.
Without your knowledge.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. That was wonderful. So I told you I was going to push you to work. So turn to people next to you. And I know people said they've read Golf Wars, so what are some of Julius Caesar's biases as an author in the Golf Wars? So please turn and talk. Get to know these students. All right, just about another minute. All right, so would any groups like to share what they came up with some of Julius Caesar's biases as he's writing the Golden Works? Anyone want to share? Yes.
The whole thing's a justification for his conquest of Gaul.
Yes, exactly. Wonderful. Who else has something?
Yes, everything he says is from the perspective of a colonizer who wants to exploit the resources for his own gain.
Yes. And just going down to basics, his biggest bias, he is a Roman. He's out for the Romans. When he talks about his men, he's not talking about Roman men. He's like, our guys. Yes.
Another bias that comes across at times is that he points out his social peers because he was standing outside of them for much of his social strata because of his political and other aspirations. So often they're the receiving end of less than flattering descriptions, whereas the nameless, and not always nameless, but the rank and file of the legions, which would appeal to many more people in Roman society, because there they can see themselves, and he praises them merely without even pausing. Like they always get credit under his leadership.
Sure, we have him praising the Centurions in the whole combat between Sabinus and Cotta, and will they leave or won't they leave? And he's very much on the side of Cotta and the famous Centurions, and then, oh, that Sabinus, look at him. Fool you once, then fool you twice. Yes.
He uses the third person singular to pretend that he is unbiased, when
Right.
really, like, he's trying to make us believe that he doesn't have to do it.
Exactly. He tries to make it seem as if he's being objective about all of these things. But if you look at Caesar's diction, he is so not objective. I always tell my students, be wary of when he uses the verb arbitror. He's always saying, they think that, with the implication is, and they're wrong. So it's really interesting if you kind of follow his narrative like that. So those are definitely some biases in Caesar. How about Virgil's bias in the Aeneid? So again, with your partners, talk for about a minute. Oh, 2 minutes, go.
Making the powers that we have. Yeah. Middle school for several years.
All right, about 30 seconds.
Yeah. Especially you can really turn one off.
Okay. So let's just chat for a minute about some of Virgil's biases as an author as he comes to be writing about the Aeneid. What are some of his biases? Yes.
He's pro-empire.
Yeah. He's pro-empire. He's pro-Augustus. Although it's really interesting because I point out with my students, if he's really pro-Augustus and Augustus equals Aeneas, then he doesn't think that Augustus is the brightest bulb in the pack. I mean, Yeah, Aeneas, super good looking, not so great. I always tell my students, like, Aeneas equals Zoolander. And so they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So, but better at fighting, maybe. What are some other biases that Virgo brings to the table? Yes.
There is at times, and it's not throughout the whole poem, but there's definitely, his language is, at times, I mean, it's towards that idealized agrarian potential, in the fabled past of Rome. So he's really, it's not necessarily anti-city, but it's definitely, this is where we live, and this is why we should be strong.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Well, thank you. Lots of stuff to think about. Let's see what I put there. Oh, we're getting there. Don't worry. So, take a moment, again with your partners, we're doing a quick one, like 1.5 minutes. Talk a little bit about how women are depicted in the golf course, and if you can't think of any, that might be an issue too. So, start talking to the people around you. 1.5 minutes, go. All right, 30 more seconds. Oh, just 30 seconds more. All right. So who can actually think of any women in the golf course? Oh, you did. Good. Yes.
There's some chieftain's wife that gets enslaved and is like a
Yeah. Okay.
In book 6, where he talks about the relationships on Celts and their family units and women, they're discussed.
Yes. So here's what I came up with. So they refer to the daughter of Ergetris being given in marriage to Demnaris. And it was, I think 2 years ago now, that one of my students said, did she want to marry him? Why did she marry him? What's going on there? And it's like a treaty sealed with a kiss. And of course, I have to bring up Julia and Pompey the Great and the lines there and the parallels there, right? Sometimes I feel like Vercingetorix is kind of like foreshadowing what happens to Caesar a little bit. We've got Vercingetorix, the Norris, Castus. We had Caesar, Pompey, Crassus. Everyone meets a bad end. And the dog gave me that's what I tell my students. The wise women of the Germans. The wise women of the Germans, they say, don't attack under the new moon. And they give bad advice. So we have a woman given in marriage. We have women giving bad advice. We have Minerva as a deity. That's cool. Except Minerva is given a lot of like quote unquote masculine qualities. And when you read about Minerva, it's almost as if they treat her as if she's a man. So they treat her with respect because they treat her as they would a man. We've had a lot of conversations about this in my classes here. I have students really into Minerva. So it's interesting. So she's given respect for that reason. And I think what Kevin was alluding to, men have the power of life or death over women. And women are questioned like slaves if there is a suspicious death of their husband. Notice that it doesn't say vice versa. If there's a suspicious death of the wife, is the man questioned like a slave, meaning with torture? Nope. So what do I do in my class when I come across this? When I come across these issues that I feel like I really need to talk to with my students, we read the passage first. And it's not like I act like, oh, cool, everything's good. But no, we read the passage first, we read the whole thing. And then, just like I might do with like a pop-up grammar lesson, like, ooh, look at the clauses here. It's, what's going on here with Vercingetorix's daughter? What's going fun. What does it say about how the novels view women? What does it say about the role of women? And so we use these in the context of the text as springboards for conversations. And so that's how I'm going to go through these. I'm going to go through a couple more of these. There are a lot of women in the Indian, so we're going to talk about them next. Any questions? How are women depicted in the Indian? Another minute and a half with your people, probably 2 minutes because there are way more women, so go. One more minute. I know there's lots to talk about. All right, I know you guys, this is something that you could probably spill a lot of these over, and a lot of it has been spilled over it. In fact, I devoted my college thesis to a lot of this, and it just, it's so much fun. The power of women is really interesting, because there's this wonderful contrast of power, well, not wonderful, but power and powerlessness. And it just seems like these women, they can't really hold on to power. And so let's chat a little bit about that. So Juno, what is her overarching characteristic? She's just angry. But and basically to say, oh, she's kind of justified. I mean, she hates the Romans, or the Trojans that will become the Romans. She actually is mad at all of Jupiter's affairs. Well, you think. She's like, oh, those Trojans, I totally hate them for all these reasons. And Ganymede, hello. That's super insulting to me. You replaced my kid with this little Trojan prince guy. So not only is Jupiter having affairs, he is throwing them in her face. She's not a fan of that, understandably. And she's jealous of Minerva. Minerva, Jupiter's favorite daughter. She gets to use lightning bolts and I don't. Makes perfect sense why she's angry. And the interesting thing is, Ruth keeps characterizing her as angry. It's like, what? Yeah, of course she is. Seems very logical here. She drives Aeolus to help her with the storm. She's like, hey, I got 14 girls. They're really beautiful with respect to their form. That's right. Tell me this. And they're just I say, what does that mean? They're like, she's got a hot bod. Yeah, pretty much. So she's driving him, and she's trading on female sexuality too. It's like, hey, it's not like, oh, these women, they will love you and care for you. Nah, hot bod. It's just, yeah, and she'll give you a kid too. Because that's the point of it all. No sarcasm. Exactly. So we talk a little bit about what that means about Roman society and what's going on there. Because that's problematic. And if we compare it to our society, again, very problematic. What is the role of women there? And do women still have stereotypes that are similar to this? Do we still see women depicted in this way? Absolutely. Is this problematic? Yes. And so using these historical examples and talking about the problems in historical examples and then trying to compare it to our society is how I feel like it's really speaking in for students. Other problematic things. So she has Carthage as being destroyed Romans, so she's working actively against it. The cave scene, which is just like all kinds of problematic. And then Dido, one of her favorite, kills herself in grief at being abandoned, the idea of abandoned woman. And guess what? Juno's kind of an abandoned woman too. Her husband is very absent and having affairs. And so there's a lot of parallels there. Also, she's pity for Dido. There's parts of Juno that I feel like are the good parts, but they're not the part that Virgil emphasized. Virgil's like savage, angry. But there's some nice parts about Juno. She releases Dido's soul. She likes Dido. She wants Dido to be happy with the king scene. It just doesn't work out that way. And so now Dido. And Dido is initially this powerful woman. But the problem with her power is that she is compared to Diana. And what this means, and what my students and I have been talking about this year, is she is powerful as long as she is unmarried and a virgin. Or, just not having sex. As soon as she gets involved with Aeneas, the problems start. She is no longer powerful. It's as if she gives up her power for him. We talk about that, again, historical context, and then we bring it and we talk about, okay, is this still something that there's a lack of power sometimes? Is this something we see today? Is this something that happens? And yeah, and the idea of powerful women. And I also like to bring in the Cleopatra analogy. What's going on in Roman history during the Aeneid? You want to talk about it a little bit?
Roman men are being lured away by the tempest.
Yes, and she's really strong. She's powerful. She's scary. There's a fear there. There's a fear of powerful women. And I think that Virgil's I think Virgil's a little pretty powerful, to be perfectly honest. And so then, there's the weird Venus trick with this Aeneas, this Cupid, weird stuff. And the Anna trying to get, you should totally love him. And then the cave scene. And then rumor. Note about rumor. Doesn't look bad for Aeneas. Looks bad for Dido. Guess what? They both had sex. Why is that a problem? This is a big debate we have every year. We talk about it. And we talk about why it's problematic. And my students, they think about it in a historical context again. And then they think about, that still happens. That's still a thing. That's still really problematic in our society. Because, ooh, look, she had sex. Ooh, oh, look, he had sex. High five. It's terrible, but it still happens, and it's something to talk about. It's not right. And so, again, historical context, gets them talking about it, but then bring it in, compare it to what they're dealing with in modern society. That's how I try to do it. And then we have to talk about suicide, which is really hard. That's something that still happens, and that's something that is really hard, and what makes her think that she has no way out. That's the hardest part to talk about. And my students say, she's so powerful, she's still the queen of Carthage. Look at all this stuff she has. And yet in this moves her. She feels like she has nothing. It's terrible. But again, it's a jumping out point for that conversation. And if any of these things are triggering for my students, I tell them they can leave, or they can talk to me one-on-one, or they can just signal me to let me know, no, we've got to stop this, let's move on to something else. Because I feel like, especially with things like suicide, it can be very triggering for some students. And so I feel like as a teacher, I need to address that, but I also have to be respectful if I need to stop. Because for some students, it hits it very close to home. So, something to be aware of as you're teaching social justice and EQ curriculum. Now, I only have a couple more minutes, so Anna, her main job is to kind of be annoyed with Dido and to do what Dido tells her to do. And there's this interesting session where she's like, Dido's like, oh, Anna, get all my stuff. We're going to burn it, because this lady told me to, and it'll make me stop being in love with Aeneas. I don't know if she makes it up or it's real, but it's an interesting one. Venus. Weirdest part of the Aeneid is when she's the sexy huntress talking to her son. Absolute weirdest part of the Aeneid. Because why does she have to be dressed up as a sexy huntress? And we talk about that. Why does she have to make herself look a certain way to get his attention? Why can't she just appear as his mom? What does that say about women? What does that say about Roman society? And he's kind of flirting with this woman. It's weird. Yes.
I was going to say, on the other side of that,
Sure.
A man sees a woman by herself and he doesn't rape her. So that is a positive aspect of his character.
It is.
He didn't have to talk with her. He could have just, free rape, and that shows a lot of piety and respect that he cared enough to have an actual conversation with a woman and treat her as an equal.
And that brings up another problem though, like, you see a woman and it's like, ooh, free. Like, that's problematic too. That would be I think that's something, that is mythology. Yeah, that's why Apollo's the worst. But, yeah. So some other people, Deipea, Iris, Helen, that's problematic. And he's like, it's all Helen's fault, she's the worst. And he's like, really? It's kind of God's fault. And we actually had a big debate in class. And my class was pretty divided. Some of them actually thought it was Helen's fault, which was interesting to me. But I tried to take my own side and listen to their points, and they had some interesting points. But it was interesting because a lot of that was influenced from their own bias about like women's sexuality being a power, which I thought was really interesting. And it sparked really good conversation. And then poor Lavinia, she's just like, oh, you're gonna marry Tertius? Nope, gotta marry Aeneas. Oh, and Creusa, I love that Aeneas loses her. He's like, oh yeah, give her all those important things with me from Troy. Okay, I got my son, I got my father, I've got the Penates, let's go! Oh, where's my wife? Oh no. And so, yeah, clearly what is important in Roman society? And is that what's important in our society? Something to talk about. So, how are non-Romans depicted in the Gallic works? We're not going to have time for you to talk with everybody, but just some ideas. The Gauls, again, the judgy, like arbiter, they may think that, but they're wrong. The fun part about human sacrifice, and like Caesar shouldn't have been so judgy. They may have done Roman human sacrifices in the Forum during the Second Punic War, so he's all judgy about the human sacrifices. Like, okay, whatever. The Germans, he's super judgy on the Germans. And it seems as if the Romans have this crazy fear of Germans. Like whenever they're like, oh, the Germans are coming. Like, oh no, the Germans. And so it's really interesting in the Gallic Wars. And my students know that every time we see the Germans are coming, because every time they're mentioned, it means everyone's scared. And the Romans are very fearful of that. And what does that mean? How did the Romans fear? Why are they fearing them? And what was going on there? And the Britons. Caesar basically invades Britain. It's like, why are they doing this? Why are they fighting us? And look, they're so sneaky. They try to send us hostages and then pull them back. Well, Caesar, you're invading their land. And so as soon as you turn around like that and have to talk to students about it, it's like, oh, yeah, well, that makes total sense. I have some of the people who are mentioned, and I unfortunately don't have time to get into it, but as you know, all of them have different episodes that Caesar talks about, and they're characterized in some flattering, but some really not flattering lights. And so talking about what it means to be someone who is a non-Roman. And how are non-Romans depicted in the Indian? I apologize for going a little fast through this. Dido. She's a non-Roman, but guess what? She helps out the Trojans when they arrive. She's super nice. In fact, one of my students pointed out, she said, I think Dido's speech is the most interesting that we've read, because look at it, she has figures of speech everywhere, she's using fun language and diction, her speech makes her very intelligent. It should not have been said by a man, you're like, wow, that's a good speech. If it's said by God, you're like, wow, that's a good speech. But then you read book 4 and you're like, oh wow, she uses a lot of power. That's interesting. Jarvis. Jarvis is interesting because there's a little bit of judginess when Virgil's describing him, and then there's that fun part where he talks about Paris and judges him. Like, oh, Paris, you half man, you guy with a, special funky hairstyle. He's making fun of his hair. Like, that's stupid low. Like, your hair is silly. Like, it's interesting. It's talking about what's appropriate and dialogue with my students. Like, why is it not okay to make fun of physical characteristics? Things like that. So opening up a lot of different conversations. And the Greeks, the big baddies in Aeneid versus the Trojans. So talking a little bit about how the Greeks are characterized. Beware the Greeks eating their gifts. And so how are conquered and conquerors depicted? We're not going to get into this a little bit, but talking a little bit about what it means to be the conqueror and conquered. My students especially like talking about what it means to walk under the yoke. That's really fun. I said, imagine if you lost your soccer game and then you're walking and everybody's like throwing trash at you and talking mean stuff about you. Like it's like you lose the battle and then just like to rub salt in the wound, you get made fun of. It's like great, it's horrible. And so we talk a little bit about that and what that means and why Caesar brings that up and how he's trying to bias the audience against the Hellenicians. And again, these other groups. And we talk a little bit about the Greeks and why the Greeks are portrayed the way they are as antagonistic to the Trojans. And the Carthaginians and what that means, and the Mauritanians talking about Jarvis, and then the Latins when we talk a little bit later. So that is all I have. Thank you so much. That time is up. And let me know if you have any questions you want me to share this with you.
While Jen is getting set up, I'll do the introductions. Thanks so much, Maureen. Jen Jarnagin is here to speak about equity in assessment. She's the department chair of world languages at the Episcopal School of Dallas. In addition to being the lead Latin teacher for middle school, she also serves as a diversity and inclusion assistant. Jen currently teaches grades 5 and 8 with an eye towards developing proficiency and questioning power. She is also the Luther Cal leader for Dallas, and feel free to live.
Salve, always. So, I really enjoy so many of the different things we've been talking about today. And I feel like whenever we're doing social justice work, equity work, inclusion work, it's very easy to think very broadly and very big picture. But one of the things that I find tends to fall through the cracks is actually our assessment practices. We can have the most inclusive array of sources, source material, content. Our discussions can be really forward-thinking and interesting, and we can really be mindful of making every single person in the room feel heard and seen and valued. But we can still do a very traditional, old-fashioned assessment that can get us into some trouble if we really want a mind towards being inclusive and being equitable. So this is an image that I really enjoy. Many of you may have seen this before. It's borderline cliche. In the first one, you've got the three, whoops, that's not an on-pointer. Works back at home that I accidentally left. I got on the plane Friday morning and I was like, oh, my pointer. All right, let me try that again. Did you do this one? Yes. That's right. Oh, I went a little too close to the middle. Oh well. So the far one with the 3 boxes, that would be sort of equality, right? We're doing the same thing for everyone. All of our kids are being tested the same way, same kinds of things over and over again. On the far side, just removing a fence that is not see-through, right? Using the chain fencing instead, where all 3 people, you don't have to do anything, right? They can just fully participate, fully be involved, fully enjoy what's happening. I would say that image is not really something that is in any of our control as teachers. We've got departmental constraints, we've got school or district constraints, we've got a lot of external pressure, goals, motives. So that's not something many of us are in a place that we can control. That far one is my goal in terms of the diversity and inclusion work that I do at my school as a coordinator, an assistant coordinator in middle school. What I can control and what I think that I really want you to think about when you're doing your own types of assessments is that middle one, right? I can't control whether everyone truly has equal access to every single aspect of their education or their experience with education. But what I can control is what I ask kids to do and the types of tasks I have them do that can put them all in a position to be successful and to be able to show me what they know and what they've mastered. So this is sort of, in my opinion, the best place to start when you're doing any kind of assessment work is what is it that I need kids to be able to do? What is it that I need them to show me they can do, right? In reality, I find in my experience that what students need to be able to do is read a text and make some inferences, make some connections, be thinking about what's going on, right? They also need to have some cultural competence, some intercultural competence, those are kind of my two big things, that I feel like, again, I'm in middle school, no matter what kind of program I send them off to, if they can do these two things, they can continue in Latin and find success and usefulness, right? In the traditional textbooks and methodologies that I learned from, that I suspect many of you learned from, it's really a lot more about memorizing paradigms, it's a lot more about synopsizing verbs, it's a lot more about memorizing vocab lists, and it's a lot more about being a decoder of sentences, right? A la Mila, for example. I'm excellent at all of those things. I'm not, neither of my parents graduated college. I'm not necessarily a typical person who would be in the plastics world, but because I'm so good at A through D, I didn't have a problem going through college and grad school and sort of playing the game of school. It's just a fluke of brain biology that I'm one of those people. I like puzzles, I got it, I can sit in the corner of the book and figure it out, right? Most of our kids are not in that position for various reasons. So also, this first set, right? Most kids in our classrooms are going to be able to read something and make some inferences. Most kids are going to be able to develop those intercultural competencies with some help. That's really a much more empowering way for students to be assessed in their learning. The latter is much more gatekeeping, right? Like, oh, you can't memorize paradigms, this isn't for you. Like, oh, you don't understand the difference between third and third IO, this isn't for you, right? I've had past colleagues, no current colleagues, luckily, who are much more from that gatekeeping perspective, and that's where I've heard things like, I don't even know why a student who was on the extended time list would take Latin. It's not for them. Latin's for everybody. That's why I'm here. I want it to be for everybody, right? I don't want people to have the experience of, oh, you're from Southwest Louisiana and you do Latin? Yeah. And I probably do better than you. You know, like, I'm that kind of person. I'll go toe to toe with someone who wants to try to like be that way with me. Most people aren't that way, right? It can be a very exclusive field, as we all know, and likely why we're here. So related to this, I'm gonna have little sort of resources that pop up throughout it. Everything is linked. I'm a big fan of having everything in one place. So I want to leave you with some things you can look at later. So it's an article called Read Like a Roman that kind of goes into some of the differences between reading and decoding and what that looks like. Yeah, another thing to think about is what are you really assessing when you're assessing students, right? So if you give students a reading comprehension passage, a lot of teachers who are moving towards a more proficiency-based system, you're not necessarily going to see a lot of paradigms or a lot of verb synopses and these things. You're going to likely see a lot of reading comprehension passages. But if you're asking them questions in Latin about the Latin passage they just read, and they get it wrong, is it because they didn't understand the passage? Or is it because you're using those little cue words that take forever for a kid to fully learn, and the kid is so freaked out about, okay, so what's this who, what is what, which one is her? Is her how? Is her, you know, if they just can't really even understand what you're asking, they can very easily make a wrong guess, and then they kind of gone down the wrong path. So a wrong answer with a Latin passage has questions in Latin, you know, you don't necessarily understand why they made a mistake. Is it because they don't understand it? Is it because they didn't get the question? It's not the most reliable way to assess that, right? If a student's asked to synopsize a verb and they get all their vowels wrong, what does that tell you? It might tell you that they don't understand how these various forms work in context, possibly. Maybe it tells you that they don't understand how to read stories with these verbs in them. I don't think either of those are particularly likely. Could be. I think it's more likely to tell you that the student's not a strong memorizer. That's just not a skill that they have. They could have test anxiety and they start getting so worried about third versus third IO versus this, that, the other, that they just freak themselves out. Does the student's accent make spelling Latin phonetically difficult? We have a lot of students who have audio processing. I know we have a lot of students in my program who are dyslexic. And that tends to, there's an oral processing component that often shows up with dyslexia. So asking them to do these sorts of things is not likely that they will be successful in this task. given, but the deck is essentially stacked against them on something like that. So if you want them to demonstrate their understanding, it's really important that you remove the barriers to that understanding. And some things that I always try to think of with my tests, very clear directions, very consistent formatting that has enough blank space. Unlike my presentations where I like pack as much in as possible, I would not put this, I would not give kids something quite like this. Enough blank space that no one page looks so overwhelming that your anxious kids are gonna freak out before they've even read it. And then they're already in a bad headspace, and it could be a passage that they know and love and can crush, but they're already freaked out just by what it looks like. Fonts and colors that you know all of your students can read with ease. And then choice. I'm a very, very, very big believer in choice for kiddos. And I say kids because I teach littles, but students very broadly speaking. So the amount of confidence that students have in their ability to accomplish a task is going to impact their performance, right? If they feel like they can crush what you're asking them to do, they're naturally more inclined to do that. I mean, how many of us have seen a kid that we know is really bright just falls apart on a test because they freak themselves out in their head, right? Giving them a bit of choice can help them not do that. It eliminates some stress, it empowers them to really critically evaluate what they're best at, right? And think about, okay, I could do this option or this option. Okay. What have I done in class? What is the feedback the Jarnagin has given me? What am I best likely to show I got? You know, that little change in what you do can really help them feel like they're showcasing their work in the best way possible. And then you as a teacher, you're going to get the same feedback if you give kids 2 different ways to show that they understand how nails are declined, for example. You're still going to get what you need out of it, but giving them a choice really will help them feel more autonomy, help them feel more confident. It'll help them trust you more. And the more students trust you, the more they're gonna want to work for you, the more you can push them, the harder assessments you can give them, in my opinion. And there's an article that he has since made into a book called Learning to Choose, Choosing to Learn by Mike Anderson that explores this idea. That seems really interesting. And what I put here is a preview that you can find online that I really enjoyed what you have to say about that. So here's just a little bit on my approach to assessment. Ideally, right, if I could do how I want, when I want, period, I would assess when I think 80% of the class can get an 80 or better. Like they can do 80% of what I want them to do well, right? But of course, how often are things I do, right? So the things that I do when I can't actually live in that ideal world is I have to make some adaptations, right? I give study guides that match the format of my tests, so that kids know what the directions are gonna look like. They have time to ask me, make sure they understand what they're gonna be asked to do. They have a sense of how long it's gonna be, right? All that kind of stuff. That transparency also lets them know that I'm not out in any way to trick them or do gotchas. I often tell them I did not become a teacher to trick children. That's a weird career move. It's a weird hobby. Like I enjoy making children feel bad for a living now. Like that's not what I want to do. And then I use pop quizzes judiciously. I call them snapshots instead of quizzes. Just give me a little snapshot of where you're at is to help me know what you know, so that when I write a test, I know where you're at. If I don't give you this now, how am I going to know you're at where I think you're at? Maybe I'll give you something way too hard, right? You can kind of phrase it in a way that actually gets them on board for pop quizzes, which seems kind of bananas. Yeah, Michelle.
Well, I was just thinking, if you want me to say this till the end, but I was wondering if the pop quizzes like show you that everybody's on fine, do you then go on to actually give the test, or would you be like, you know what, this is enough information, like everything else?
It kind of depends. That's a great question. It kind of depends on the grade level. When I do them in 5th grade, if everyone's doing well, I'll just make that the quiz and we'll move on. With 8th grade, I still, they're so big on fairness and on justice that sometimes it's fun to do just to hear their opinions, but they're very concerned with justice, right? So if a kid, even if they got like a 95 on a snapshot, they're like, it was not 100. I deserve the chance to have a 100, right? So fair enough. That's a good question. And then I always explain the why behind my assessment in advance, so they understand why I'm asking them to do certain things, why there's value in what I want them to do. I was always a why person, so I appreciate the why. And I find that, it helps kids be on board. If I want them to do a specific thing a certain way, I make sure they understand why I want it done that certain way. It's not just out of some arbitrary whatever, it's for a reason. I was always a very subversive kid, and if the answer for why I needed to do something was, well, because it's the way you should do it, ooh, that was not a fun day for anybody. I also try to invite students to be a part of this process. You know, hey guys, I'm gonna need for you to be able to show me that you understand what datas look like and how they work and what's going on. What are some ways that you think you could show me that you understand how they work? You know, and if there's consensus, you know, you can use that data then to either make a section of your test or how you're gonna give them options. If people say one or two different things, that can kind of lend itself to helping you make these different ways kids can show you that they know what they do. Yeah.
When you say the why behind the assessment, can you give me an example of that dialogue?
Good question. It's so built in from the first day of like why I speak and how I speak and why they need to listen, because I do use a largely communicative classroom approach. Like my classroom management is just look, listen, and ask. If you're looking where you need to be looking and you're listening and you're able to demonstrate to me that you're listening, and you ask me questions and I'm not doing my job right, like if you don't know what I'm telling you, then I'm not doing my job right. So that just sort of sets itself up for these conversations really well. What comes to mind though, I teach out of Cambridge in my 7th and 8th grade classes. My 8th graders, we were on stage 12 where Vesuvius erupts. And I told kids, okay, for this one, the culture section is gonna look a little different on this test. I'm gonna give you a box with about 9 different terms in it. Some of them will be in Latin, but mostly they'll be in English. And you're gonna write me just everything you know about the eruption. And you need to use 5 of those 9 words for full credit. And they were like, well, why? And I said, well, the reason the word bank is there is to help anchor you and kind of help you remember different things. The reason it's 5 out of 9, I know some of y'all can spin me a really great tale about Mr. Gage's science class because you're studying volcanoes there. And that's awesome. And that might check that you understand the pyroclastic flow, and that's great. But I need you to be able to tell me a little bit about Herculaneum, a little bit about the preservation process, a little bit about the Naples Archaeological Museum that holds all these different artifacts, right? This is not just science class. And if that is your strength, I want you to be able to incorporate that, but I also need to make sure that you understand all these other cultural aspects. And they're like, oh, fair enough. And this is not, I don't believe, the teacher, a colleague of mine at my school said this to me, but she said it's a quote she heard somewhere. None of us know the attribution, so if you do, please tell me. Like, it's on the test because it's important, not it's important because it's on the test, right? If something is important only because it's on a test, it can probably be taken, right? So examples on assessments, because I really like to see examples. Keith Toda's blog is a great source, and all of his examples will be in Latin because he's a Latin teacher. More broadly, Martina Bex is phenomenal. She does a curriculum in Spanish called Somos. It's being adapted into French right now. My friend Blair is actually helping to adapt that. Shout out to them. Please tell your French teachers, friends. Hers really helps with the why behind it, and I find her approach really fits in with my philosophy as well. Another thing to think about with your assessment, this one I'm going to kind of go through quickly. Are you really assessing their understanding, proficiency, mastery, or whichever kind of buzzword you want to use? Or are you just assessing compliance? There's a time and a place for both, in my opinion, but are you looking at their ability to follow directions, to memorize things, to demonstrate the understanding of a topic, to read and infer? Like, what is it you actually want them to do? And then make sure that your assessment reflects what you want to evaluate and then weight it appropriately. So I do have a section of grammar. I do reading comprehension, like a story, and then I do reading comprehension questions. Then I ask them grammar comprehension questions still about that story. So it's never just sort of grammar in isolation in a vacuum. It is something that I know a lot of other teachers are gonna want them to know. It's something I want them to know. I want to make sure they understand how words are working in a sentence and what tense and what person verbs are, these kinds of things. It's not weighed the same as their reading ability. It's not weighted the same as their ability to talk about culture. Because it's not as important, in my opinion, as those other things. And just think about what skills are most important for mastery, and then make sure you're assessing those skills, right? What types of tasks adequately prove students have mastered those skills, right? Turning work in on time is a good life skill, and firm deadlines train students in compliance. But is that as important as mastery? You know, how many of us have been late to something or missed a deadline for something, and the world didn't end? You know, I really like assessing proficiency in a classroom by Eric Herman. It's very short and sweet. It's like 45 pages that sort of talks about this idea of proficiency testing. It's not so much about the compliance piece, but the proficiency piece. And then I give you a slide of just different types of assessments that I give because I find, oh, nice, really touched the mic, got mad at me. I actually find real examples really helpful. I used basically ACTFL, like where they're at, not as low, intermediate low, that kind of thing. Because I am teaching middle school, that's sort of what's appropriate. By 8th grade, some of mine are approaching intermediate then, so I want to give you a couple of those tests as well. If there's time at the end, I'd be happy to pull a couple of things up and I can see what I'm going on, or you know, what types of things I do. If you're interested in kind of looking at your assessments and kind of thinking about these things, just some starting points that I would suggest are, think about one assessment you give that students always struggle with. Like that one chapter in your book or that one stage in your book, or when you get to one particular concept, right? What's that one place where the kids just always have a hard time being as successful as they are on most of your assessments? Then look at it and just think about any barriers that might be there that you didn't realize were there, right? Is it a matter of your directions, your phrasing, your formatting kind of confusing kids? Are you assessing what you think you're assessing? Maybe you've been doing a lot of more compliance-based things and this is your first mastery kind of thing. Because kids who are used to sort of checklist style, my name's on it, I colored in the lines, I turned it in on time, da-da-da, getting 100 that way. The first time they're asked to show their ability to do something, that can be kind of hard on them because it's just a different thing that you're asking them to do. Are they given any choice in how to demonstrate their learning? I think that's a really good one. And then think of how you're grading the assessment. What separates a 98 from a 97? Luck? I don't know. It's a really hard one. Are you looking to give points to students or take points away from them? I think that's something that we all have to kind of think about for ourselves. I tell kids I'm always looking for opportunities to give you points. So the only thing that I absolutely do not want you to do is leave something blank. Put something that you kind of sort of think maybe works. Because odds are I can kind of sort of maybe give you like 2 points out of 10 or something, you know. And again, it's just really, especially at my level, about building that confidence piece. There's a really good book called Grading for Equity that uses the analogy of it is much easier to estimate in yards than in inches. Like if we had to estimate in yards this whiteboard or the blackboard up here, we'd all be much more on the same page than if we had to estimate in inches. And that's that 0 to 100, right? What's an 87 versus an 86? But if we're grading on like a 4-point scale, we're more likely to agree on what's 2-level work, 3-level work, 4-level work, etc. So I really recommend this book very highly. It's full title, Grading for Equity, What It Is, Why It Matters, and How It Can Transform Schools and Classrooms. He talks a lot about effort, and just to connect it to Maureen's talk, so many of our biases can sort of needle their way into our grade book if we grade on effort, right? If you are a white woman from an elite background, or even if you're not from an elite background with all the privilege and everything else, your idea of effort when you're looking at your young men of color, if you don't check that, right, there's all these sorts of things that can creep in. If you do not have any learning disabilities or learning differences, that bias of effort is gonna creep in, right? A kid with dyslexia can be working 3 times harder than anyone else, right? That kid with ADHD has a million more things going on in their brain than the kid without it. They're putting in way more effort, but we're not giving them 100 in effort most of the time to grade that way. So he has a really wonderful book I really recommend. If you're in any position to recommend book studies to your department, to your campus, it's a very good one. He's got examples. It'll shake people up. It's very provocative. People feel very strongly. And this is a little bit on how I grade, not like this. I love that image. This is a link to an article from the New York Times. Christina Spano is the illustrator. I've not read the article yet. I used it for the image, but it does seem to be a good article, all about how our grading policies are changing. I grade on rubrics when possible. I base them on the actual, proficiency scale. The actual language is it reads like a VCR repair manual. Most of their stuff is very chunky, clinical to me. So I always modify the language so the students actually know what it means. Kids understand authentic, inauthentic, or sympathetic listener or whatever, right? When numerical grading, I give partial credit whenever possible. If you are doing something that is reasonable, I'm giving you something for it. No hand turns. You will not get points for hand turns. Except one time in 8th grade, because it was a really funny. So, this is controversy time, so everybody take a deep breath. I'm about to say something that might make you feel all kinds of different ways. Alright, you might get your feelings depending on your retake policies. So, I am on team Rainbow SpongeBob. Most of the people I work with are more like, I don't know what that is, tennis SpongeBob? I actually watch SpongeBob anyway. I also like meme generators for middle school. They're perfect use of way to deliver Latin kids. So I do give them as opportunities for growth and a way to build confidence in kids and help them trust you. What I hear most often is, why didn't they work hard the first time? Well, maybe they did, they just didn't know it yet, right? Maybe their parents had a huge fight the night before. Maybe they left all their stuff at their dad's house and now they're at their mom's house and they're worried because their mom's gonna rail on them for getting their stuff at their dad's house again. You just never know, right? Maybe they just got humbled in the class before their Latin quiz because they got really bad math grade and they know that their dad's gonna be mad at them, right? There's a million different things. No, maybe they did just not study. It happens. But I want to tell you a little bit about my specific policy. I am lucky that I'm in a position where I can have my own policy. I know that we're not all in that position. If you are not, this is something that I highly recommend you if you're interested, kind of using as a guide, because I think I cover a lot of bases here where a lot of complaints and resistance kind of tends to butt up against it. So what I do is I let them retake quizzes. They meet with me first. They have to meet with me first and debrief. What did you do well? What did you do wrong? What happened? What do you think the hang-up was? Right? Because I need to know, is it, I just forgot to study the Jarnagin. If I go over it, I'll get it. Or is it, I studied for 2 hours and I don't get it. I then have 2 very different jobs to do. And I need to know what job I need to do to help me get first, right? So they have to meet with me. Then they have a set period of time during which to complete the retake. You do not have all semester. It's usually about a week. Sometimes I have a little bit of a leeway if it's a weird, there's weird holidays or school things going on. Sometimes it might be a little bit longer. If it's in the middle of flu season, obviously I get a little bit more grace because I could be out too. I've got a 4-year-old who knows, right? I get it. We're all January is just kind of just a minefield for things like that, at least in my school. But I do set boundaries on when they can retain it. They don't retake tests for me unless there's something really extreme going on. And I tell them, come and talk to me. I wanna help you. I wanna work it out. This is handled on a case-by-case basis. It's also, I'm much more likely to assign them corrections than let them retake a test, like a big assessment. The way that I handle corrections, they have to know what they missed and either tell me why what they did was wrong or why what is right is right. Again, it's not just, they can't just look off of a friend who got a like 97 and they got a, 63 or whatever and just copy. They have to actually do the work that I need them to do. And then they have a set period of time. If you give kids set times, it works a lot better. But if they abuse this policy, right? I have this in my syllabus very clearly. If I think you're abusing this policy, I will take it away. Because it's meant to help you. I would be sympathetic if you say, look, Jarnagin, we just had the world's hardest science test. We've got a math test tomorrow. We're slammed. Can we move the lab test back a day? Yeah, we can move the lab test back, right? But if it becomes, oh, Ms. Jarnagin, I need to retake this quiz. Oh, Ms. Jarnagin, if it looks a little bit suspicious, yeah, you and I are going to have a conversation. We're going to talk about what's going on and what could we maybe do differently, right? And sometimes I'll let kids know that, well, maybe I need to sit down with like your mom and dad, and we can all kind of hammer this out. Oh no, because sometimes that's usually a way to kind of tell if it's a little bit of maybe a slacker situation versus something legitimate. I've never had to go beyond warning kids. The way that I frame it is very much through me. I don't say I don't trust you. That's one of the worst things you can do with kids. What I say is how it makes me feel. Looking on Justin for a minute, kind of Justin, this is the third time in a row you've had to retake something. And, you never really need to meet with me if you're never struggling. It's just that you forgot to study. It's hard to make me feel like maybe you're just kind of blowing off my quizzes. And maybe it's, you need to just please remember, if you let me know if you've got like other tests on the same day, I can usually have some wiggle room there. But I gotta tell you, these 3 in a row that are just for the same reason and not for effort, it's really starting to make me feel like maybe you're taking advantage of this policy. And that's the only thing I've ever had to say to a kid, ever. It didn't hurt the relationship with the student. I put it fully on how I feel. And I always give the kid an out, right? That could just be how I feel. That could not be what's happening, but it's just, I'm starting to feel that way. Can you maybe walk me through it a little bit? Not really. Again, it's a way that empowers them to be a part of the conversation as opposed to pointing that finger at them, you didn't do blah, 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 right? I really like it because it helps kids with the growth mindset, right? We always say that that's something we want in kids. We want it to be about the learning and not the grade. I was just at a PD thing at my school this weekend. Well, it should be about the learning and not about the grade. Well, of course, then my first question is, well, why do we have grades? That's kind of and I don't mean that as to be flippant. I mean for real. I could just get feedback. It would be just as effective, right? Assuming that kids read it. But if you're going to use a retake policy, guess what the kids do? They read that feedback because then they can know how to get better, right? If you're doing, in my opinion, if you want kids to have a growth mindset, that the 78 is what you got done, that flies in the face of what we're trying to build with them, in my opinion. It also gives kids a lot less motivation to cheat. And I talk kids through that. Like, I understand why you might want to cheat. I remember being in school, being stressed, having a gazillion things to do, being worried about your coach not letting you play because your grades fall below a certain level, or your parents being upset with you, or whatever the case may be. But if you cheat, it's got to be a 0 and it's got to be written up, and it becomes a blot on you, right? It becomes the thing that teachers say about, oh, they're a cheater, you got to watch them. I don't want anyone to say that about you. So just try your best the first time. You can always retake it. I don't have a minimum score. I didn't put this on there, I need to add it. I don't have a minimum, like you don't have to fail to get a retake. Because then what happens is the kid who could get an 85 deliberately takes it because they're worried about the 85. And that's more work for everybody. And then of course I'll always have the sort of boundary pushing kid, which if the sooner you can learn to love the boundary pushers, the easier your life will be. It's always a work in progress, still is for me. But you always have your boundary pushers who are like, what if I get a 98? Can I retake it? And I say, if you don't have anything better to do with your time than to meet with me and debrief on your 98, and go home and review, and then take a different version of this quiz that I have to then go and write for you. If you really have nothing else going on in your life, like, yeah, but don't you wanna watch some Netflix or something? Like, go ahead and do it through them. Yeah, I mean, there's gotta be something else you could be doing with your time, right? And again, this Carol Black has been out for a long time, her book Mindset I really enjoy. It is very, she is a doctor, but it's a very sort of general audience book. It's a little bit kind of folksy, which I like. It's not necessarily everyone's cup of tea, but I find her book really lovely. And that's all I got.